Hi everybody, this is the Patriot Hood, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion. Your host, and welcome back to the Patriot Hood. Hopefully like this video and hit that subscribe button. You know, one of the things that's sort of been bothering me last couple of days is the Charlie Kirk assassination. He was killed on September 10th this year. It's been over a month. And it seems like it's being like swept under the rug. I mean, I saw this thing that the judge on this case has told about 3,000 witnesses. He's told everybody that's involved not to say anything, which I thought was very strange. I mean, why are you putting a gag order on just people that are gonna like be in the gallery watching the trial? You can't talk about it outside. It's very strange. And it seems like there's a lot of weird things that have happened since Charlie Kirk's assassination. Like, one thing I have noticed is that the media did not go to the house of the family of the alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson. The media has not gone to his family's home. There was one person that came out and spoke and said that he was innocent, and that was the grandmother. But they have not talked to the father, who was in law enforcement, or was in law enforcement. He has, I guess, siblings, and no one's come out. No one said anything. It's the quietest thing I've ever seen. And then, of course, you have the so-called boyfriend. This guy, his boyfriend, disappeared. Nobody knows anything about what happened to that guy. Just completely fell off the map. And then, of course, we have the security team acting like they're on a baseball field, giving like the manager giving signs to their base coach. It's all these hand signals and all this strange behavior. I'm going to read you this article. This is from about a month ago. From, I guess, the Gateway Pundit. And it sort of lays out all the same kind of stuff that's been put out there. And I also thought to myself that Charlie Kirk was too important to be killed by some lone gunman. That's how they're going to try to make this out to be. And I think a lot of stuff that we know about that's got swept under the rug. How did he get back home? He had the gun. He took it apart. And then the gun reappeared in the woods, and it was put back together. Very strange behavior. But let me read you this. The grassy knoll at Utah Valley University and related historic lies, JFK, Tina Peters, and more. It's of paramount importance to understand the Charlie Kirk assassination in context of the many lies told to us by the undeniable deep state apparatus. Starting with the model used for the JFK assassination, nothing much has changed in the way they roll these events out. Below are the 7 easy-to-understand steps of how they work. Seems like the same thing as now. We have a pattern. A lone gunman. This is a very important person. A lone gunman did this situation. We saw this with JFK. We saw this with his brother. We saw this with Martin Luther King. We saw this with President Reagan. And quite a few others. First of all, this is number 1. They designate their target along with the input from an alliance of similar powerful interests that would benefit. Number 2. Next, they generally succeed in achieving their objective during their first try. Number 3. After that, they deploy their cover story, which rarely ends up being believable to anyone with common sense. That's with the gun, and he's going off the roof, and he's getting all these, all this text messaging going on in his phones, and of course we know as well as the would-be assassin of crooks that tried to kill Trump in Pennsylvania. It's an important one too. Number 4. Next, in response to their cover story, they have an arsenal of rebuttals ready to deploy, or anyone who questions their cover story. Number 5, after that, with the attitude of a rabid animal, they defend their weakening cover story with an array of absurd, insulting catchphrases. Number 6, In the final analysis, they never bend an inch to the common sense of the masses. Number 7, no history books get changed to reflect the truth. And eventually, through time, they have remained in control. Here are a few examples of how steps 1 through 7 work. JFK. Number 1. The alliance was between interests that wanted to continue the Vietnam War that JFK intended to end. The Mafia also, among others, felt double-crossed by JFK and wanted revenge. Number 2. Dealey Plaza and Dallas were selected, and they succeeded in assassinating JFK before his vehicle reached the underpass. Now, the Texas Book Depository was owned by a friend of LBJ, and just recently had bought it before the assassination. Just so you know. Number 3, the cover story was the birth of the lone nut model, which has been deployed numerous times since then. Now Oswald, remember, when the media came to talk to him when he was being shushed around the police station, he said he was a patsy. I think once he said that, he basically cut his throat in that moment. And they deployed Jack Ruby. And they double-crossed Jack Ruby, too, because I thought he was in on it. He knew about it. He thought that they were going to protect him and treat him like a hero. And I think that's why he left his animals, because he had dogs in his car. And I think he thought that he would be able to go back and get them. And that didn't happen when he went down into the parking garage. Number 4, the most famous rebuttal to anyone who would dare question the official story was the birth of the conspiracy theorist model. Number 5, the rapid defense of the official story even ensnared the most trusted media voice at the time, Walter Cronkite. Other notables were Gerald Ford and the Warren Commission. Gerald Ford was a conspirator of the major order. Number 6, the release of the JFK files by President Trump has not resulted in any official narrative changes that cemented deep and wide into the story of America. The problem with the files, and I've gone through those files when they got released, you have nothing but CIA files. And it's basically where Oswald's going from here to there. And you had sort of other people telling the State Department and this one and that one that JFK was going to be assassinated, and they didn't do nothing about it. But there is nothing from the FBI. There is no papers from the FBI in those files. I haven't gone through all of them, but mostly CIA stuff. Okay? The FBI investigates stuff after the fact. Nothing there. They probably had their own conclusions, and that's something that, I scratch my head on. Number 7, the perpetrators get buildings and airports, etc., named after them. Especially notable is J. Edgar Hoover's FBI building, Washington Dulles, George Bush Intercontinental, the McCain Terminal in Phoenix, and the Harry Reid International Airport in Las Vegas. There are many other examples, but this is an overview to get the concept across as to how the story sticks. The one thing I learned doing this channel is how deep George Bush was in on JFK. He was there in Dallas when JFK was assassinated. And years later, when it came out, he couldn't explain what he was doing there. He couldn't explain what he was doing there. But there are some very strange things about him. We know he's turned into to be a really bad guy. And he lied to the American people that he wasn't involved with the CIA in 1963. He was I guess he started getting involved, he said, in 1966, 1967. But he was involved long before that, even long before 1963. I don't want to get too deeply into Bush, but here's Charlie Kirk. Number 1, Kirk was an emerging threat. What he represented had to be headed off at the pass, even though there would be significant blowback from his death. His words would derail the planned intentional destruction of Western civilization via their consistent hammering of woke ideology. The blowback, however, has probably been stronger than they anticipated, but they did solve their larger problem of him perhaps being president someday. As a matter of fact, quite possibly could have been on the ticket for vice president in 2028. That tsunami of support by the youth would have been a tough situation for the deep state to overcome then. So they had to eliminate the threat well in advance and deal with the blowback in the present time. A rough correlation would be the energy that JFK brought in the Camelot years, and Charlie's impact could have been even more significant given him riding the wave of popularity from President Trump's success at draining the swamp and making America great again. Additionally, an election with Charlie's vice president would have been significantly too big to rig. Number 2, the deep state definitely achieved their objective on the first try and was worth every cent to them. One well-aimed shot, a patsy, and a grassy knoll diversion was in place. Number 3, every day we watch their cover story narrative fall apart. So many excellent independent investigators have come forward with evidence that contradicts the official narrative and have been featured on excellent platforms. Think about it. As of this writing, the bullet hasn't been found. They revamped the crime scene similar to how they washed out JFK's limo quickly. Also, we don't even know if the projectile was fired from the back or the front. This was no nut, even though they want you to believe it was. It wasn't. Again, he's too important. He's too important to take a chance with the guy that important. They weren't going to take a chance with just some nobody. Number 4, the press conference they held in Utah was the first attempt to make the official narrative stick. At this early point, they haven't yet come up with a new phrase such as conspiracy theorists or election denied to label those who doubt the official explanation. In the meantime, they attempt to push their cover story of unity and authority. Part of that is the 5D chess they're playing by some involved seemingly supportive of the firings of those who have been sensitive to his death. This is similar to them allowing the renaming of JFK International Airport and the Kennedy Space Center. We could probably expect them to come up with a new derogatory tagline to dispel any question of the official narrative once the dust settles after his memorial service. And this was done a month ago. Again, as just mentioned, a rapid response will likely come soon. It's just too early now. Everybody must be zealously defend their narrative at any cost, no matter what it takes. Again, the judge put a gag order on this. Presently, number 6, they are just letting the supportive public lick their wounds the same way the honoring of JFK proceeded with the state funeral after they shot him dead, as they just achieved a huge victory, reminiscent of a stitch in time saves 9. Quote, number 7, that the past any indicator of the future, the story of Charlie Kirk will become a footnote in the story of America, unless the deep state is actually dismantled this time. There are many other examples that adhere to the 7 steps noted above. The 2 recent assassination attempts against President Trump, MLK and RFK assassinations, the recent sentencing of Brazil's President Bolsonaro to 27 years in prison, and even the pandemic are all of the same cloth. Try observing these using the same steps, set 1 through 7, and the framework noted above, and see them through the lens of common sense. It is very crazy and insane that this stuff has been going on. And this has been going on for a long time. Thousands of years. Thousands of years. The same playbook. Let me do this again. The alliance was between entities that wanted to continue the Vietnam War that JFK intended to end. The Mafia also felt double-crossed by JFK and wanted revenge. David Plaza and Dallas was selected, and they succeeded in assassinating JFK before his vehicle reached underpass. The cover story was the birth of a lone nut model, which has been, I'm going to say this, and I don't think this is blasphemy. This is the same kind of stuff. The same kind of thing that happened to Jesus Christ. They put all the weight on Pontius Pilate, and they kind of try to get people to say that the things that happened after the resurrection didn't happen, that he wasn't the Son of God. And the beginning part's a good example of it. There was an alliance between the Jews in Israel and the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire, they didn't care what was going to happen here. But when Jesus went into the temple and he had a fit, destroyed all these tables that they set up, that was the beginning of the end. And that's when they got the Romans involved. And they had a patsy to do this for them, and Pontius Pilate, even though he knew it wasn't the right thing to do. They let the mob control what was going on. It's the same playbook again and again and again. I'm just using that as an example. I mean, it changes a little bit, obviously. I got to sit down and think about it, but it's very interesting. But this Charlie Kirk situation is very troubling, and we did not have like any kind of assassinations for 44 years in this country, until President Trump got shot at twice. We don't know anything about crooks. The FBI was so quick to cremate him, and I think he was probably trans. You see pictures of him that people had taken of him. He had long hair, and, looked very different than what he looked like in other pictures and stuff. And they cremated him very quickly for whatever reason. That family has not come out and spoken up. This nut that tried to shoot him in Florida, again, they let him, he wasn't that important because he would have been gone. And this isn't a conspiracy, there's just common sense. If that guy was so important, this Ralph guy, he would have been gone. And he goes out there and he's defending himself and he makes a fool of himself. And the family said that he's innocent. The daughter says he's innocent. And then, of course, we have this whole situation with Tyler Robinson. The boyfriend's disappeared. The family's not talking at all, except for the grandmother that came out and said he was innocent. What's going on here? I'm trying to figure this out, and I sort of have this kind of brain that works these things out. I just don't. It's the same pattern over and over and over again. And you try to, you want to see justice here. And like I said at the beginning of this video, Charlie Kirk was too important to have a lone gunman kill him. Just like JFK was too important. Robert Kennedy, which is interesting, is that with Robert Kennedy, his son, who recreated the whole scene, said that he was shot in the back of the head. Sirhan was in front of him. So how did he get behind him? Because somebody killed him from behind. He was shot from the back. In the back of the head, in the back. And they just dumped it all on Sirhan. It's just crazy. Well, you let me know what you think about this video. And, of course, please subscribe to the Patriot Hut. And I'll see you later.